The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the dark space between 12 different star systems. It was bigger than most moons and served as the meeting place for alien races across the galaxy. Today was special. For the first time, in over 200 years, a new species wanted to join the Galactic Collective. High Chancellor Vexar stood on the observation deck watching the approaching ships. His scaled hands gripped the metal railing as he studied the small vessel flying toward them. The Zephyrians had conquered 12 star systems with ships 10 times that size. This tiny human craft looked like a toy compared to the warships in his fleet. "They call themselves humans," said his aide, checking the data pad. "From a planet called Earth. Only achieved faster than light travel 50 years ago." Vexar snorted through his nostril slits. 50 years was nothing. His people had been traveling between stars for over 1,000 years. These humans were babies in the cosmic order of things. Commander Thelmos approached from behind, his 6 insect-like legs clicking on the metal floor. The Caltharian's compound eyes studied the incoming human ship with calculating precision. "Their vessel shows no weapon signatures," he reported in his buzzing voice. "Energy output is minimal. Either they are very confident or very foolish." "Probably foolish," Vexar replied. "Most young species are." The human ship docked with barely a sound. Through the transparent aluminum windows they could see figures moving inside the airlock. Vexar straightened his ceremonial armor and walked toward the reception hall. As the leader of the most powerful military force in the collective, it was his duty to evaluate these newcomers. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. A human male stepped out first, and Vexar immediately felt something was wrong. The creature was smaller than most species in the collective. It had pale skin, brown hair, and wore simple dark clothing. But what disturbed Vexar most was its face. The human was smiling. Ambassador Jake Morrison looked around the reception hall with bright eyes and an expression of pure joy. His smile showed white teeth, and his face seemed to radiate happiness. He walked forward with confident steps, extending one of his hands toward Vexar. "High Chancellor Vexar, I presume," Jake said in perfectly translated Galactic Standard. "I'm Ambassador Jake Morrison, representing the United Earth government. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you." The smile never left his face. Even while speaking, the corners of his mouth remained turned upward. Vexar had dealt with hundreds of species over his long career, but he had never seen one that smiled constantly like this. Behind Jake came 3 other humans. A female with dark hair introduced herself as Dr. Lisa Parker. Another male, broader and more muscular, was Captain Ryan Brooks. The last female was Amanda Clark, who immediately began speaking to the various alien delegates in their own languages. "Fascinating station you have here," Jake continued, still smiling as he looked around. "The architecture is remarkable. We, humans, have much to learn from such advanced civilizations." Diplomat Quinara stepped forward from the crowd of alien observers. Her species, the Phylixians, were known throughout the galaxy for their ability to sense emotions. They served as natural mediators in conflicts because they could feel what others were truly thinking. As Quinara approached Jake, her fur began to stand on end. Her large eyes widened with what looked like fear, and she took a step backward. The other Phylixians in the group began to show similar signs of distress. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," Vexar said formally, ignoring the Phylixian reaction. "The collective is always interested in meeting new species. Tell us about your people." Jake's smile somehow became even brighter. "We're honored to be here. Humans are a young species, as you know. We've only recently developed the technology to travel between stars. We're eager to learn from older, wiser civilizations like yours." Dr. Lisa Parker stepped forward, carrying a data pad. "We've brought cultural exchanges as gifts," she said with her own constant smile. "Human art, music, literature, and scientific discoveries. We believe sharing knowledge benefits everyone." Commander Thelmos studied the humans with his compound eyes. Something about their behavior pattern struck him as unusual. Most new species showed nervousness or fear when meeting the collective for the first time. These humans appeared completely relaxed, as if they were meeting old friends rather than potentially hostile alien races. Your species achieved space travel remarkably quickly, Thelmos observed. Most civilizations require centuries to develop such technology safely. Captain Ryan Brooks answered this time, his smile matching his companions. Humans are naturally adaptable. We face challenges head-on and find solutions quickly. It's just how we're built. There was something in the way he said how we're built that made several aliens shift uncomfortably. The human's tone remained friendly and conversational, but the words carried an undertone that was difficult to identify. Jake pulled out a small device and projected a hologram of Earth into the air. The blue and green planet rotated slowly, showing continents and oceans. "This is our home," he said proudly. "Beautiful, isn't it? Though I should mention it's quite a dangerous place. We humans had to work hard to survive there." The hologram showed images of Earth's wildlife, massive predators with sharp teeth, poisonous creatures, natural disasters, weather patterns that could kill in minutes. Yet Jake described each threat with the same cheerful tone, as if discussing pleasant vacation destinations. "Impressive that your species survived such conditions," Vexar admitted grudgingly. "Oh, we didn't just survive," Jake replied, his smile never wavering. "We became the dominant species. Humans are very good at adapting to challenging situations." Quinara was now visibly shaking. She approached her superior, a tall Felixian named Elder Simtar, and whispered urgently in his ear. Other empathic species in the gathering began showing signs of agitation as well. Elder Simtar frowned and looked at the humans with new interest. "Forgive the interruption, Ambassador Morrison, but our empathic colleagues are reporting some unusual readings from your delegation." Jake turned his full attention to the elder and his smile remained perfect. "Oh, how interesting. We humans are always curious about different abilities. What exactly are they sensing?" The way Jake asked the question seemed innocent enough, but there was something in his eyes that made Elder Simtar hesitate before answering. The human's expression remained friendly and open, yet the elder suddenly felt like prey being studied by a predator. "Perhaps it's simply unfamiliarity with your species," Elder Simtar said carefully. "New encounters can be overwhelming for sensitive individuals." Of course, Jake nodded understandingly. "We humans know how important it is to make others feel comfortable. That's why we're here, after all. We want to be good neighbors." Dr. Lisa Parker began distributing small gifts to the various delegates. Books, music recordings, and art pieces from Earth. "These represent different aspects of human culture," she explained. "We believe you'll find them quite enlightening." As the aliens accepted the gifts, Jake continued talking about humanity's desire for peaceful cooperation. His words were all diplomatic and proper, but several species began to notice that his smile never changed. Whether discussing trade agreements or Earth's dangerous wildlife, the expression remained exactly the same. Commander Thelmos made careful notes on his datapad. In his military experience, creatures that never showed variation in expression were usually either extremely simple-minded or extremely dangerous. These humans did not appear to be simple-minded. "We look forward to learning about your military capabilities," Thelmos said directly. Captain Brooks answered with enthusiasm, his smile matching his ambassador's. "We'd be happy to share information about human defense strategies, though I think you'll find our methods are quite different from most species." The way he said different made Thelmos's exoskeleton itch with unease. Jake clapped his hands together, the sound echoing in the large reception hall. "Well, we don't want to take up too much of your valuable time today. Perhaps we could schedule more detailed discussions over the coming days? We humans are very patient when it comes to important negotiations." As the human delegation prepared to leave, Quinara grabbed Elder Simtar's arm with trembling claws. Her voice was barely a whisper, but her words carried throughout the suddenly quiet hall. "Elder, I can sense what they're feeling underneath those smiles. It's not happiness, it's not friendship, it's something else entirely. Something that makes every instinct in my body scream danger." These humans, they're not what they appear to be. Jake Morrison heard her words clearly. His head turned toward the Felixian diplomat, and for just a moment, his smile seemed to change. It became wider, showing more teeth, and his eyes grew brighter with what might have been amusement. "Don't worry," he said gently to Quinara. "We humans are exactly what we appear to be. We're simply here to make friends." 3 days had passed since the humans arrived at Nexus Prime. Dr. Lisa Parker stood in the Cultural Exchange Center, surrounded by dozens of alien delegates who had come to see what human civilization had to offer. Her smile remained as constant and bright as ever. "This piece is called Little Red Riding Hood," she explained, projecting images from an old Earth storybook. "It's a tale we tell our children to teach them important lessons." The story seemed innocent enough at first. A young girl visits her grandmother through a dangerous forest. But as Dr. Parker continued, the aliens began to shift uncomfortably in their seats. The story featured a wolf that ate the grandmother and tried to eat the child. The girl escaped only by tricking the predator and having it killed by a woodsman. "Fascinating," commented scholar Zexal, a tall, blue-skinned Altarian. "Your species teaches children about predators and deception at a young age." Dr. Parker's smile never changed. "Oh yes, human children learn very early about the world around them. We have many such stories. Would you like to hear about Hansel and Gretel? That's about 2 children who outsmart a creature that wants to eat them. Or perhaps Jack and the Beanstalk, where a small human boy defeats a giant many times his size." The more stories she told, the more uncomfortable the alien audience became. Every human fairy tale seemed to involve small, weak creatures, defeating much larger and stronger opponents through cleverness and determination. Elder Simtar leaned over to his aide. "Have you noticed that all their stories end with the smaller creature winning?" Meanwhile, in another section of the station, Ambassador Jake Morrison sat across from High Chancellor Vexar in the formal negotiation chamber. Between them lay holographic displays showing trade proposals and territorial agreements. "These terms seem quite generous," Vexar said, studying the documents with suspicion. "You're offering advanced medical technology, agricultural improvements, and cultural exchanges. What exactly do humans want in return?" Jake's smile remained perfectly pleasant. "Simple friendship, Chancellor. Perhaps some mineral rights to a few uninhabited asteroids. Maybe permission to establish small trading posts in neutral space. Nothing that would concern a powerful civilization like yours." The requests seemed almost too reasonable. Vexar had negotiated with dozens of species over his career, and everyone always wanted something significant. These humans appeared to be giving away valuable technology for almost nothing. "Your medical technology alone is worth 10 times what you're asking for," Vexar pointed out. "We humans believe in helping others," Jake replied cheerfully. "After all, healthy neighbors make for peaceful relationships." Something about the way Jake said peaceful relationships made Vexatar's scales itch with unease. In the station's military briefing room, Captain Ryan Brooks was sharing information about human defense strategies with Commander Thelmos and several other military leaders. His presentation began with images of ancient human warfare. "This is from a battle called Thermopylae," Ryan explained, his smile bright and friendly. 300 human warriors held off an army of thousands for several days. They knew they would die, but they fought anyway. The hologram showed armored humans with spears standing against overwhelming odds. The aliens watched in fascination as the small human force used terrain and tactics to inflict massive casualties on their enemies. "Impressive sacrifice," Thelmos buzzed, "though ultimately futile." Ryan's smile grew wider. "Oh, but that wasn't the point, Commander. Those 300 warriors bought time for the rest of Greece to prepare. The enemy won that battle, but lost the war. Sometimes humans accept small losses to achieve larger victories." He moved to the next image. "This is called D-Day. Humans launched the largest seaborne invasion in history. Thousands died in the first few hours, but they kept coming. Wave after wave of humans throwing themselves at fortified positions." The military leaders watched in growing alarm as Ryan cheerfully described battle after battle where humans had thrown themselves into seemingly hopeless situations, and somehow emerged victorious. "Your species appears to have an unusual relationship with death," observed General Crexon, a scarred veteran of many campaigns. "We humans understand that some things are worth dying for," Ryan replied pleasantly. "But more importantly, we've learned that persistence usually wins. We might lose the first battle, or the second, or even the 10th, but we keep coming back until we figure out how to win." Across the station, Amanda Clark was demonstrating her linguistic abilities to a group of communication specialists. Now, just 3 days she had learned to speak fluent Zephyrian, Caltherian, and Altarian without using any translation devices. "How is this possible?" asked Communications Director Yolandra, her tentacles writhing with amazement. "Most species require months to master even basic phrases in alien languages." Amanda smiled warmly. "Humans are naturally adaptive learners. We pick up patterns quickly and adjust our behavior accordingly. It's one of our more useful survival traits." The way she casually mentioned survival traits while discussing language learning made several aliens exchange worried glances. They were beginning to realize that everything humans did seemed to relate back to survival in some way. Later that evening, the alien delegates gathered in private to discuss their observations. The meeting took place in High Chancellor Vextar's personal quarters, away from any human monitoring devices. "Something is wrong with these humans," Quinara said, her fur still standing on end. "Every time I try to read their emotions, I sense something predatory hiding beneath their friendly expressions." "Their stories are disturbing," added Scholar Zexial. "Every tale they tell involves defeating larger, stronger opponents through deception and persistence." Commander Thelmos pulled up his tactical notes. "I've been analyzing their behavioral patterns. Every smile corresponds with gaining some form of advantage. Every helpful gesture places us in their debt. Every cultural exchange reveals more about our psychology than theirs." Elder Simtar nodded grimly. "My people have dealt with many species over the centuries. We've encountered warriors, scholars, traders, and even some predatory races. But these humans are something different. They appear friendly while simultaneously studying us like prey." General Crexun leaned forward. "Their military history is concerning. They've spent thousands of years fighting wars against their own species. What kind of civilization develops such advanced warfare techniques against themselves?" "The kind that sees conflict as natural," Vextar replied. "I've been reviewing their trade proposals again. These aren't generous offers. They're strategic positioning moves. Those small trading posts they want would give them perfect surveillance positions throughout our territory." Dr. Othmar, the station's chief scientist, had been quietly reviewing the human cultural gifts. "I've analyzed their literature and music. The themes are consistent: survival, adaptation, overcoming obstacles, defeating enemies. Even their entertainment focuses on conflict and victory." "They've been here 3 days, Thelmos observed, "and they already know more about us than we know about them. Their linguist can speak our languages better than some of our own people. Their diplomat has memorized every detail about our political structures. Their military officer has identified weaknesses in our defense strategies." Quinara shuddered. "What frightens me most is their patience. They're not in any hurry. They smile and wait and watch while we reveal everything about ourselves." "Like hunters," Vextar said quietly. "Patient hunters who study their prey before striking." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. These humans weren't just another species seeking membership in the Galactic Collective. They were something far more dangerous. "What do we do?" asked Elder Simtar. Before anyone could answer, there was a soft chime from the door communications system. Jake Morrison's voice came through the speaker, as cheerful and friendly as ever. "Good evening, Chancellor Vextar. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. I was wondering if we could schedule a private meeting tomorrow to discuss some additional trade possibilities. I have some fascinating new proposals that I think you'll find quite interesting." The alien leaders looked at each other with growing alarm. Jake's timing was too perfect. Either the humans had been monitoring their private meeting, or they were so skilled at reading alien behavior that they knew exactly when to apply pressure. "Of course, Ambassador Morrison," Vextar replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I would be delighted to meet with you." Wonderful. Jake's voice came back, through the speaker. I do so enjoy our conversations. Sleep well, Chancellor. After the communication ended, the room remained silent for several long minutes. Finally, Commander Thelmos spoke what they were all thinking. They know that we know. And somehow, that realization made Jake Morrison's constant smile seem even more terrifying. Commander Thelmos worked through the night in his private research chamber. His compound eyes focused on the data streams flowing across multiple screens as he dug deeper into humanity's history. What he found made his exoskeleton crawl with fear. The humans had survived not one but 5 major extinction events on their home planet, ice ages that should have killed them, volcanic eruptions that blocked out their sun for years, asteroid impacts that destroyed most other life forms. Yet somehow, humans had not just survived but thrived after each disaster. Impossible, Thelmos muttered, reviewing the data again. Most species barely survived one extinction event. These humans had adapted to 5 separate attempts by their own planet to kill them. He pulled up more files. Human warfare history stretched back thousands of years. They had fought with sticks and stones, then metal weapons, then explosive devices that could level entire cities. They had developed chemical weapons, biological weapons, and finally nuclear weapons capable of destroying their entire world. The most disturbing part was not that they had created such weapons. Many species developed terrible weapons. What made humans different was that they had actually used them. On themselves. Repeatedly. Thelmos found records of something called World War II. Humans had fought each other across their entire planet for 6 years. 60 million humans had died. The war had ended only when one group of humans dropped atomic bombs on cities full of other humans. His mandibles clicked nervously as he read the casualty reports. These humans had killed more of their own species in a single war than most civilizations, had total population numbers, but the truly terrifying discovery came next. After that massive war ended, humans had not descended into chaos or primitive barbarism as most species would have. Instead, they had rebuilt their civilization even stronger than before. They had turned their weapons technology into space travel technology. They had converted their war industries into peaceful purposes. Within 50 years of nearly destroying themselves, humans had reached other planets in their solar system. Within 100 years, they had achieved faster than light travel. They had taken the skills they learned from killing each other and used them to conquer the stars. The next morning, Dr. Lisa Parker stood before a new audience of alien delegates. Today's presentation was titled, Human Scientific Achievement. Her smile was as bright and constant as ever. Humans have always been curious about the world around us, she began cheerfully. We love to solve problems and overcome challenges. She showed images of human medical advances, techniques for repairing damaged bodies, methods for treating diseases, surgical procedures that could fix almost any injury. Impressive, commented Dr. Othmar. Your medical knowledge is quite advanced for such a young species. Dr. Parker's smile never wavered. We humans have had lots of practice fixing injuries. Our history has provided many opportunities to study trauma medicine. The way she said it so casually made several aliens shift uncomfortably. She was talking about centuries of warfare and violence, as if it had been a helpful learning experience. This is our psychological research, Dr. Parker continued, moving to the next section. Humans are very interested in understanding how minds work. We've studied behavior patterns, stress responses, and decision-making processes extensively. The presentation showed detailed studies of fear, pain, and submission, charts showing how different stimuli affected decision-making, graphs displaying the breaking points of various psychological conditions. Why did your species develop such detailed knowledge of psychological manipulation? Asked Elder Simtar carefully. Oh, we humans are naturally social creatures, Dr. Parker replied with her constant smile. Understanding each other helps us work together more effectively. We've learned that the right approach can convince almost anyone to cooperate willingly. Ambassador Jake Morrison's private meeting with High Chancellor Vexar took place in the station's most secure conference room. Jake arrived precisely on time. carrying a data pad and wearing his usual pleasant expression. "Thank you for meeting with me, Chancellor," Jake said, settling into his chair with casual comfort. "I wanted to discuss some exciting new opportunities for our species to work together." Vextar studied the human across the table. After a sleepless night reviewing Thelmos's research, the Chancellor saw Jake Morrison in a completely different light. The human's relaxed posture and friendly smile no longer seemed diplomatic. They seemed predatory. "Before we discuss new proposals," Vextar said carefully, "I'd like to know more about human history. Your species seems to have experienced significant conflicts." Jake's smile brightened with apparent enthusiasm. "Oh, human history is fascinating. We've faced so many challenges over the years. Wars, natural disasters, resource shortages. Each crisis taught us valuable lessons about survival and adaptation." He pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's timeline. "This period here shows our Bronze Age collapse. Entire civilizations disappeared almost overnight. Climate change, warfare, societal breakdown. Most species would have reverted to primitive conditions permanently." The hologram showed burning cities and abandoned settlements, massive population losses, the collapse of trade networks and technology. "But humans are remarkably resilient," Jake continued cheerfully. "Within a few centuries, we had rebuilt everything even better than before. The collapse had eliminated our weaker societies, leaving only the strongest and most adaptable cultures." Vextar felt his blood run cold. Jake was describing the near extinction of his own species as if it had been a helpful selection process. "Here's another interesting period," Jake said, advancing the timeline. "We call it the Black Death, a disease that killed 1/3 of our population in just a few years. The display showed mass graves and abandoned towns, entire regions depopulated by plague. Terrible tragedy, Vextar managed to say. "Oh yes, very sad," Jake agreed, his smile never changing. "But also quite educational. The survivors developed better medical knowledge, improved sanitation, and stronger social structures. In a way, the plague made humanity stronger as a species." Jake moved through more of human history with the same cheerful tone. The Mongol invasions that killed millions, colonial expansions that displaced entire populations, industrial accidents that wiped out cities, nuclear near misses that almost ended civilization. Each disaster was presented as a learning experience, each tragedy described as an opportunity for growth. Jake's pleasant smile never wavered as he discussed the death of billions of his own people. "Your species seems to view destruction as beneficial," Vextar said quietly. "Humans understand. That strength comes from overcoming adversity," Jake replied pleasantly. "Every challenge we've faced has made us more adaptable, more resourceful, more capable of surviving whatever comes next." He leaned forward slightly, his smile becoming more pronounced. "That's why we're so excited about joining the Galactic Collective, Chancellor. We bring unique perspectives on problem-solving and conflict resolution." The way Jake said conflict resolution, while discussing humanity's history of survival through violence, made Vextar's scales stand on end. "We've also developed excellent skills in resource management," Jake continued. "Humans are very efficient at identifying and utilizing available resources to their maximum potential." Vextar realized with growing horror that Jake was talking about conquest and exploitation using the language of business efficiency. "I should mention," Jake added casually, "that we've been monitoring some unusual activity in the station's communication networks, private meetings, encrypted messages, research queries about human history. We're not concerned, of course. It's natural for new partners to want to learn about each other." The casual admission that humans had been spying on private alien communications was delivered with the same friendly smile Jake had worn throughout the meeting. "We understand that trust takes time to develop," Jake said pleasantly. "But we're confident that once you get to know us better, you'll see that humans make excellent allies." He stood up, still smiling. "We're patient creatures, Chancellor. We've learned that the best outcomes come to those who wait for the right moment to act." As Jake left the room, Vextar sat alone in the silence, finally understanding what they were dealing with. These humans were not diplomats seeking friendship. They were apex predators who had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of survival, through violence, deception, and patience, and they were already inside the station studying their prey with those constant, terrifying smiles. The secret meeting took place in the deepest section of Nexus Prime, far from the main diplomatic areas. General Crexon had chosen the abandoned maintenance bay carefully. No human monitoring devices could reach this far into the station's infrastructure. 7. Different species had sent representatives. The Zephyrians, Caltherians, Altarians, Felixians, and 3 others, who had grown increasingly worried about the human presence. They gathered in a circle, speaking in hushed voices despite their isolation. "We cannot allow these humans into the collective," General Crexon said bluntly. His scarred face showed the experience of someone who had fought real wars. "They are not diplomats. They are predators conducting reconnaissance." High Chancellor Vexar nodded grimly. "I agree. Their entire approach is a military operation disguised as diplomacy. They study our weaknesses while appearing friendly and harmless." Commander Thelmos activated a portable holographic display. "I have compiled evidence of their deception. Watch this analysis of their behavior patterns." The hologram showed tracking data from the past week. Every human movement was mapped and timed. Every conversation was analyzed. The pattern that emerged was disturbing. "They never move randomly," Thelmos explained. "Every action serves multiple purposes. When Ambassador Morrison visits the Cultural Center, he also passes by 3 strategic computer terminals. When Dr. Parker gives presentations, she positions herself to observe our security protocols. When Captain Brooks tours our military facilities, he memorizes defensive layouts." Elder Simtar leaned forward, his ancient face creased with worry. "My empathic people are becoming physically ill from exposure to the humans. The predatory emotions they sense are overwhelming." "What do you propose we do?" asked Admiral Koran of the Rigelian fleet. General Crexon's voice was firm. "We vote to reject their application. Then we escort them back to their home system and establish a quarantine zone around their space." "And if they refuse to leave?" Vexar asked. "Then we remind them why the collective has maintained peace for 2 centuries. Crexon replied coldly. "Superior firepower has a way of encouraging cooperation." Unknown to the conspirators, Amanda Clark sat in a maintenance shaft directly above their meeting. She had discovered their gathering 3 hours earlier through careful monitoring of their communication patterns. Her constant smile remained fixed as she recorded every word. When the meeting ended, Amanda moved through the station's service corridors with practiced stealth. She reached the human quarters just as the alien delegates were returning to their own sections. "Jake," she said softly as she entered the ambassador's room. "We have a problem." Jake Morrison sat at his desk reading reports on his data pad. His smile never changed as Amanda briefed him on the secret meeting. When she finished, he nodded thoughtfully. "How predictable," he said pleasantly. "Fear-based decision-making is always so limiting. Have you prepared the contingency protocols?" "Everything is ready," Amanda confirmed. "Dr. Parker has the psychological profiles. Captain Brooks has the defensive assessments. We can implement any response level you choose." Jake stood and walked to the window overlooking the station's main docking bay. Dozens of alien ships floated in their berths, representing the military might of multiple civilizations. His smile grew slightly wider. "Contact Captain Brooks. It's time for our cultural demonstration." The next morning, Jake Morrison stood before the full assembly of the Galactic Collective. Every species was represented, their delegates filling the massive amphitheater. Jake's expression radiated warmth and friendship as he addressed the crowd. "Honored representatives," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. "We humans are grateful for your hospitality this week. As our final cultural presentation, we would like to share some highlights from human military history." Several aliens shifted uncomfortably. They had all heard disturbing reports about previous human presentations. "I know that military topics can be sensitive," Jake continued with his constant smile. "But warfare has shaped human development in fascinating ways. We believe you'll find our experiences educational." Dr. Lisa Parker activated the main holographic display. The first image showed an ancient battlefield from Earth's past. "This is the Battle of Cannae," Jake explained cheerfully. A human general named Hannibal faced a Roman army twice the size of his own force. Rather than retreat, he used a tactical formation that completely destroyed the larger enemy. The hologram showed the battle unfolding. The smaller army allowed itself to be surrounded, then systematically annihilated the larger force from within. Over 50,000 soldiers died in a single day. "Brilliant tactical thinking," Jake said with obvious admiration. "Humans learned. Early that size doesn't always determine victory." He moved to the next example. "This is Stalingrad. German forces attempted to capture a human city during what we call World War II. The defenders refused to surrender despite being outnumbered and outgunned. The display showed urban warfare in horrible detail. Buildings reduced to rubble. Soldiers fighting room by room. Civilians trapped in the crossfire. The siege lasted for months. The fascinating part," Jake continued with his pleasant smile, "is that the defenders eventually won. They absorbed tremendous losses but never gave up. The attackers eventually exhausted themselves against human persistence." Captain Brooks stepped forward to provide military analysis. His own smile never wavered as he described tactics and casualty figures. "Humans discovered that we excel at defensive warfare," Brooks explained. "We can absorb punishment that would break other species. Our ability to continue fighting despite losses often surprises our enemies." The alien audience watched in growing horror as the humans cheerfully described battle after battle. Each example showed humans defeating supposedly superior opponents through tactical brilliance, technological adaptation, or simple refusal to surrender. "This brings us to our nuclear period," Jake said, advancing to images of atomic weapons. "Humans developed devices capable of destroying entire cities in seconds." The hologram showed mushroom clouds rising over devastated landscapes. The aliens had seen such weapons before but never used so casually. "We actually used these weapons," Jake continued pleasantly. "Twice. On our own species. The immediate results were terrible, but they ended a war that might have continued for years." He paused to let that information sink in. The aliens began to understand that humans would use any level of force necessary to achieve their goals. "Of course, nuclear weapons led to an interesting period we call the Cold War," Jake said. "Two human nations pointed thousands of these weapons at each other for 50 years. Always ready to destroy civilization rather than accept defeat." Dr. Parker added her analysis with academic detachment. "The psychological pressure of mutual destruction actually accelerated human technological development. Fear of annihilation motivated rapid advances in space travel, computers, and communication systems." Jake nodded approvingly. "Humans learned to use the threat of total destruction as a negotiating tool, very effective for maintaining peace through superior firepower." In the audience, the conspirators from the secret meeting watched with growing alarm. These humans were not sharing cultural information. They were delivering a threat. "Our final example," Jake said, his smile reaching its brightest intensity, is more recent. "The integration of human colonies throughout our solar system." The display showed Earth's expansion across multiple planets and asteroid belts, massive orbital installations, military bases on moons and space stations. "We accomplished this expansion in less than a century," Jake explained. "Humans are remarkably efficient at claiming and developing new territory when we set our minds to it." Captain Brooks stepped forward again. "I should mention that all human colonies are equipped with full defensive capabilities. We learned from history that isolated settlements need to be self-sufficient in case of communication disruptions." The message was clear. Humans had already established a defensive network throughout their home system. Any attack would face prepared resistance. Jake clapped his hands together, the sound echoing through the silent amphitheater. "Thank you all for your attention. We hope this presentation has helped you understand human capabilities and determination." His smile had never wavered throughout the entire presentation. As he stood there looking out at the terrified alien faces, his expression remained perfectly pleasant and friendly. We look forward to tomorrow's vote on our membership application, he concluded. Whatever you decide, we want you to know that humans always respect the choices others make. The way he said, respect the choices others make, while standing next to images of nuclear destruction made every alien in the room understand exactly what kind of respect these humans offered. As the assembly dispersed in shocked silence, General Crexin realized that their secret meeting had been pointless. The humans already knew about their plans and had responded with a demonstration of superior preparation and strategic thinking. These creatures had just politely informed the entire Galactic Collective that resistance would be futile. The morning of the vote arrived with unusual quiet aboard Nexus Prime. The massive station that normally buzzed with diplomatic chatter had fallen into an uneasy silence. Alien delegates moved through the corridors with nervous energy, avoiding eye contact with each other and especially with any humans they encountered. Ambassador Jake Morrison sat in his quarters, reviewing his notes one final time. His smile remained as constant and bright as it had been since his arrival 2 weeks ago. Dr. Lisa Parker, Captain Ryan Brooks, and Amanda Clark worked quietly around him, each focused on their own preparations. The psychological profiles are complete, Dr. Parker reported. Every delegate's behavioral patterns, stress responses, and decision-making triggers are documented. Defensive assessments are finished, Captain Brooks added. I have tactical evaluations of every species' military capabilities, including their ships currently docked at the station. Amanda Clark looked up from her communication equipment. I'm monitoring all private channels. Several species are still trying to coordinate resistance, but their efforts are poorly organized. Jake nodded approvingly. Excellent work, everyone. Today should be quite educational for our new neighbors. The vote was scheduled for midday in the Grand Assembly Chamber, the largest room on Nexus Prime. As the hour approached, delegates from 12 different species filed into their designated seating areas. The tension in the room was so thick that even non-empathic species could feel it. High Chancellor Vexar took his position at the central podium. His ceremonial armor felt heavier than usual, and his hands trembled slightly as he activated the chamber's recording systems. The Galactic Collective is gathered to vote on the application of humanity for full membership, Vexar announced, formally. Ambassador Morrison, you may present your final statement. Jake stood and walked to the speaker's platform with unhurried confidence. His smile never wavered as he looked out over the assembled aliens. Some couldn't meet his gaze. Others stared back with barely controlled fear. Honored representatives, Jake began, his voice warm and friendly. Humanity is grateful for this opportunity to join your peaceful collective. We bring unique perspectives and capabilities that we believe will benefit everyone. He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the room. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably under his attention. I know some of you have concerns about human intentions, Jake continued pleasantly. This is natural and understandable. Trust must be earned through actions, not words. General Crexin stood abruptly in his seating area. We have questions about human military capabilities and territorial ambitions. Jake's smile brightened. Of course, General, we're happy to address any concerns. He activated a holographic display that showed Earth's solar system. The image revealed something that made several aliens gasp in shock. Humanity's space was not the simple collection of planets they had expected. As you can see, Jake explained, cheerfully, humans have been quite busy since achieving space travel. We now have permanent installations on 47 different worlds and asteroids in our home system. The hologram showed massive orbital platforms, mining operations, and what were clearly military installations throughout human space. The defensive network was far more extensive than anyone had imagined. Each installation is fully self-sufficient and capable of independent operation, Jake continued. We learned from history that distributed resources are more secure than centralized ones. Commander Thelmos spoke up, his voice buzzing with alarm. Those are military fortifications, not civilian colonies. Humans don't make that distinction, Jake replied pleasantly. Every human settlement is prepared to defend itself if necessary. We find that peaceful neighbors are more likely to remain peaceful when they understand the costs of aggression. Dr. Lisa Parker stood and joined Jake at the podium. We've also established communication networks that allow instant coordination between all human territories. Any threat to one installation becomes a threat to all of them. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just achieved space travel, they had militarized their entire solar system and created a defensive network that could respond to threats with coordinated force. We should also mention, Captain Brooks added as he joined his colleagues, that all human installations are equipped with the same nuclear technology we demonstrated yesterday. Distributed deterrence has proven very effective for maintaining peace. The alien delegates began to understand the true scope of what they were dealing with. These humans had not come seeking membership as a weak junior partner. They had come as an established military power offering alliance to neighbors who had no choice but to accept. Amanda Clark activated additional displays showing human communication intercepts from across the galaxy. We've been monitoring interstellar communications for the past 6 months. We know about every military movement, trade agreement, and diplomatic negotiation currently underway in this sector. Elder Simtar rose slowly, his ancient voice shaking. You've been spying on us before we even knew you existed. Humans gather information before making important decisions, Jake replied with his constant smile. We prefer to understand our environment thoroughly. The room fell silent as the full picture became clear. Humanity had been studying the Galactic Collective for months before making contact. They knew every secret, every weakness, every potential threat. The past 2 weeks had not been negotiations. They had been a final intelligence gathering operation. Quinara suddenly cried out and collapsed in her seating area. Other empathic species began showing signs of distress as the full predatory nature of the human plan became clear to their sensitive abilities. The vote, Vexar said weakly. We must proceed with the vote. Jake nodded graciously. Of course, Chancellor. Democracy is important to humans. We respect whatever decision the collective makes. But the way he said it made clear that humanity's respect would be expressed through actions, not words. The aliens could vote to accept humanity as partners, or they could vote to have humanity as enemies. Those were the only options. All in favor of human membership, Vexar called. One by one, every delegate raised their hand in approval, not because they wanted humans in the collective, but because they were too terrified to have humans outside it. The motion passes unanimously, Vexar announced in a hollow voice. Jake's smile reached its brightest intensity yet. Thank you all for this tremendous honor. Humanity looks forward to many years of productive cooperation. As the delegates filed out of the chamber in stunned silence, Jake remained at the podium, still smiling. His team gathered around him, their own expressions matching his cheerful demeanor. Phase 1 complete, Amanda reported quietly. Integration protocols are ready for implementation, Dr. Parker added. Security assessments indicate minimal resistance potential, Captain Brooks concluded. Jake nodded approvingly. Excellent. Begin. Establishing human liaison offices on each member world. We want to be helpful neighbors. 6 months later, Nexus Prime had become humanity's unofficial diplomatic headquarters. Human advisors worked closely with every member species, helping to resolve conflicts and improve cooperation. Their methods were remarkably effective. When trade disputes arose, human mediators found solutions that somehow always favored human interests. When territorial conflicts threatened peace, human peacekeepers restored order through overwhelming presence rather than violence. When member species needed technological assistance, humans provided it in exchange for long-term agreements that gradually increased human influence. The Galactic Collective had never been more peaceful or more prosperous. It had also never been more thoroughly controlled by a single species. In his office overlooking the main docking bay, Jake Morrison reviewed reports from across the galaxy. Human influence was spreading through every sector, one helpful gesture at a time. His smile had never been brighter. A young human diplomatic trainee entered his office, eager to learn from the master. Sir, what's the most important lesson for successful negotiations? Jake looked up from his reports, his expression radiating warmth and friendship. Remember, the goal is never to defeat your opponents. The goal is to make them grateful for the privilege of surrendering. His smile grew wider, showing more teeth. And always, always remember to smile. It helps them understand exactly what kind of species they're dealing with. Outside the window, alien ships came and went from the docking bays, carrying human advisors, to every corner of the galaxy. The peaceful expansion of humanity continued, one friendly smile at a time.